So the first thing that you want to do is go to Scene Properties, and then under Units, set this to 1.6 if you're dealing with entities, or 16 if you're dealing with nodes. Next, you're going to want to delete anything that you don't need, and this cube is not the correct size. You can see it's 3.2 meters. So we need to set this correctly. One good way to scale this up to the right size is each one of these grid marks is going to be 1 pixel, assuming that your model is going to be 16 by 16 pixels. So we're going to scale it up so that the edges line up to the grid, and then right click, snap vertices, selection to grid. You can press S to scale, by the way. Now this is 4 pixels by 4 pixels by 4 pixels. We need to scale it up to 16, so 4 by 4 is 16, so just scale up by 4. Now you can see if you measure this that it will be 16 by 16. Next, what I'm going to do is set up a texture. So I have the material here, and I'm just going to click on here and go Image Texture, and then I'll go to UV Editing. Make sure to change to Material Preview. You can press Z and then look down, and it will go to Material. Then what I can do is go and get a texture, drag it into this UV area, and then in here under image texture I can select that, select closest so that it's actually pixelated. Now we can go about UV mapping. I'm going to make this model a little bit more complicated so that it's a little bit more interesting to actually figure this out. The next thing we're going to do is try to map the UVs onto here, because you can see how this is really smushed. So we're going to fix that. Firstly, we're going to go into edit mode, and then we're going to make a new cube. We're just going to move this somewhere, scale it up so that it is some amount. Like for example, this is a 4 by 4. And now we can use this as a reference. I'm going to move it so that you can see it from all directions, so it's out of the way and we can always see it. Next we're going to go to face mode, and we're going to select the reference and whichever faces are most pointing in our direction. Now we can go UV and project from view. Make sure for this that the snap to pixels is off, because otherwise you're going to have one hell of a time setting this up. Next, what you want to do is find your reference and scale the model, or scale the UV, down until it is the correct size, so that this is 4 pixels. You need to get this quite accurate because when we snap to pixels you don't want any rounding issues. And you can see here how this is mostly in the right spot, but it's not quite. The other way is just look for points that are going to be on the grid and make sure that they're like rounded to pixels, that they're close to pixels. But use this reference as a way of getting the initial size. Now we can go, we can actually right click and snap to pixels. Now it's all snapped to pixels and everything will line up perfectly. If you didn't do this, then it would be like this and it would it would look bad. So make sure that you do that. And this should be 16 by 16. So like from here to here should be 16 pixels. Now that we've done this face, we can work on the others. And there we have it. We have our entire model has been UV mapped. So now we have our model. What we can do is actually go and texture it. Now, of course, this is a bit of a mess. So we need to figure out where everything is going to go. This is where it is a good idea to put on snap to pixels, just so that you know what you're moving around. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the front face be at the top. We can select face mode, and we're just going to like move this over here. Well, actually, we'll just do everything down the bottom here. Now I know that these next sides should line up, so we're going to attempt to do that. And then as you can see, the end doesn't quite fit, so we're going to have to get creative. Move this up so that it's in line with this. And then we can move the whole thing over a little. We'll actually move all the way up. Now we have our unwrapped model, but we don't really know where to paint, so we should figure that out. Now I'm leaving a little bit of room here so that you can see what's going to happen. We'll go into texture paint, and this is a cool tool. You can paint like this, or you can bucket fill, and you'll see here how it does it bleeds a little, so we want to reduce that just so that's a little bit easier to work with. There are a couple ways you can do this. If you go into options, you can turn this down to 0, but the problem is that if you texture with this, you'll see how there are these jagged edges. A very simple way to fix that is just to make all of the diagonals a little bit more beefy, and you can quickly refer back and forth between these to make sure that you're getting it correct. So I'm going to save this out, and then I'm going to open up this. This is the texture I started with. I'm going to drag in the new version of itself, and now I can start texturing normally. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make sure that it actually covers everything. So as a general rule, if you just increase the diagonals by 1, you will usually cover everything. Now I'll save that out and press Alt R while looking at the UVs. And you'll see that all but one of my faces is set up. So let me go to UV editing so that I can actually show you what's going on. You can see here how it will actually tell you which parts you need to do, and then you can just go in. Okay, now we have the outline. We can go ahead and paint this. And there we go, we have a little rock thing. And of course you don't have to do it like this, you could do it any way you like, but that's how you can get set up and make your first model. And so like for example, I could make like stripes go across the whole thing here, and because I know that everything is continuous, at least on this side, I know that it's gonna go along like that. So I hope that helps you get set up. There are a lot of things that I didn't go over in this, like using armatures, but that is a topic for another time.